Alright, hello everyone, I'm Dan. I'm going to be talking about Angular schematics. I'm going to go over the Angular CLI, what Angular schematics are, how do you get going with them, when to use them, and how useful they might be to nav or nav connect. Alright, so the Angular CLI, you can use it to create a new application, you can use it to update your application to the latest version of Angular, and you can use it to generate a bunch of stuff for you. So you can use it to generate a class or a component. And then how you do that is you type in ng generate the schematic name, so you might put component there, and then the name for whatever you're creating, and then a bunch of arguments. So there's a bunch of common arguments that you can use. One of them is dry run, and what that lets you do is see what changes are going to happen when you trigger that thing for real. So then if you set dry run to false, then it'll actually create those files for you. A useful example might be ng generate component dumb component, and you put -v none, so that'll be view encapsulation none. So this component will receive all its styles from the global styles. And -c on push is change detection strategy on push. So John mentioned that earlier, and that's just anything that's passed to it is immutable basically. So it only cares about its inputs. So Angular CLI is pretty good, but there's probably times when it's not going to be enough for you. So if you want to do something that's kind of outside of the Angular framework, like use Jest for your unit tests, or have some kind of different folder structure, then you probably want to use this thing called schematics. So what is it? Schematics is an Angular scaffolding library. It's not as restrictive as the CLI, and it's a collection. It's an NPM package. They're versioned, and just think of them as a recipe or a blueprint for something that you're creating a lot. So how do you get going? You want to install a bunch of dependencies and then create your first collection or NPM package. So you're going to get your standard NPM stuff, and then you'll see there's that source collection file. So that's going to be your configuration file for what schematics exist in this. So you might have multiple schematics in here. In this case, I only have the one, which is called my first schema. And then you can see there's the index.ts file in that folder there. And that's just pretty much what's going to be executed when you generate this schematic. So I'm going to dig a little deeper into all the files that are in there. So that collection.json file looks like this. So the $schema basically defines the schema that I'm building on top of. So I'm just building on top of the existing Angular one, but somebody else could potentially build on top of my one and then inherit all the stuff that I've created. And then in here I have the one schematic in my collection. It's called my first schema. And that alias is basically what you refer to when you want to keep this thing off. You just do ng generate mfs. So this is the schema that I'm using for this schematic. And in here you basically define all the properties for this schematic. So take note of the service one. It's Boolean. We also want to put a TypeScript file inside this file, which kind of defines the interface for this. And then that index.ts file looks like this. The main thing here is the files part there, and within there I have three files. I have a CSS file, HTML, and a component TypeScript file. So nothing's going on with the component really, but the thing that's worth noting here is my HTML file. So if I pass the service argument, the hello service will be created. If I don't pass that, then it'll say no service there. So that's a pretty basic example, but you can do pretty much whatever you want. So then if you want to use that, then you want to either publish your NPM package or just copy those files into your application. And then you want to build it, and then you can use it essentially. So in this case, I did pass the service flag, and then you can see there that the HTML created that hello service. So when do you want to use them? You don't want to use them if you're prototyping an application, or if you're just sticking to kind of like the default Angular framework patterns. But you do want to use them if you're in a large project team, or you're working on a large application where you're reusing things over and over and over, or if you have like multiple similar applications that have the same kind of architecture that you're doing the same stuff over and over. So how useful is this stuff to nav? So Perrine and I and John and Fred, we did a proof of concept in Angular 5, and we used Narwhal. And Narwhal uses schematics to do a bunch of stuff. So our intent was to build on top of that and bring in the stuff that we wanted to do ourselves, which was generate documentation. We had a unique folder structure, and we wanted to use Jest. And we had the intent of being able to share stuff with IB or Nav1 or somebody else who was building an Angular 5 or 6 application. So that's pretty much it. So just think of it as blueprints, and you don't have to use them if you don't want to. Thanks.